There are two types of consultants right now. One's getting cut and one is thriving. McKinsey just showed us which is which. They're cutting thousands of consultants, not because they're struggling. McKinsey is one of the most profitable consulting firms on the planet. They're cutting people because they've decided they don't need them anymore. And look, when the company that tells other companies how to streamline operations starts cutting their own consultants, that's not a cost-cutting measure. That's a signal about where your entire industry is heading. There's a framework that explains exactly what's happening. I call it the processing layer versus the authority layer. Once you see it, you'll know which side of this you're on and whether what's happening at McKinsey threatens your business or doesn't affect you at all. But first, let me show you why this is happening right now and why every major consulting firm is making the same move at the same time. McKinsey's workforce shrank from 45,000 to 40,000 in just 18 months. That's 5,000 jobs gone. According to Bloomberg, they're planning another 10% cut over the next 2 years, several thousand more positions. But this isn't just McKinsey. Deloitte just announced they're overhauling job titles for all 181,500 US employees. Their internal presentation called the current structure outdated. New titles take effect June 1st. PwC cut over 3,000 jobs in the past year. KPMG, EY, Accenture, Bain all announced waves of layoffs since 2023. The entire consulting industry is restructuring simultaneously. McKinsey's own 2025 State of AI survey found 32% of companies plan to reduce their workforce because of AI within the next year. Companies planning cuts outnumber those adding jobs 2-to-1. So that's the macro level. The consulting giants are cutting. But here's what most people miss. There's a pattern in who gets cut and who doesn't. Once you see it, you'll know exactly where you stand. McKinsey's global managing partner, Bob Sternfeld, said something every independent consultant should hear. Quote, "We will probably have fewer folks in the non-client deployed areas, but they'll be leveraged by today's technology and AI." Let me translate that for you. McKinsey is keeping the people with direct client relationships, senior consultants, partners, and the people clients trust. What they're cutting are the people who do the work behind the scenes. Research, analysis, slide decks, data synthesis, all because AI does that now. McKinsey's internal tool, Lily, is used by 72% of their workforce. It's reduced research and synthesis time by 30%. BCG has Dexter. It creates presentation decks in minutes. Bain has Sage. Deloitte has Zora. Tasks that used to require teams of junior consultants working for weeks, AI handles them in hours. Now, here's where this gets personal. Whether you're an independent consultant, a business coach, speaker, or any expert who monetizes knowledge, ask yourself, what am I actually selling? If your value proposition sounds like I do research, or I analyze data, or I create reports and recommendations, you're selling the same thing McKinsey is automating away. The work getting cut at McKinsey is the same work many independent consultants built their entire business around. And your clients have access to the same AI tools. They're asking the same question McKinsey asked. Do we really need to pay someone for this? I want to share a framework that clarifies what's happening. I call it the processing layer versus the authority layer. In an expertise-based business, there are two layers of value. The processing layer is where you do the work. Research, analysis, deliverables, reports. You're processing information and producing outputs. Clients hire you for what you produce. The authority layer is where you're the trusted advisor. Clients aren't hiring you for deliverables. They're hiring you for your judgment, your perspective, your reputation. They want access to you, not just your outputs. Here's the critical difference. In the processing layer, you're competing on competence. You're one of many who can do the work. Clients find you when searching to complete a task. They compare you to other options, including AI. In the authority layer, you're competing on recognition. You're not one of many. You're the person they want. Clients seek you out before they start searching. They've already decided they want you. McKinsey is cutting the processing layer and keeping the authority layer. The question, which layer are you operating in? Simple test. When a potential client reaches out, did they find you because they were searching for someone to do a job, or did they seek you out specifically because they already knew who you were? Found you during the search? Processing layer. Competing with everyone else and increasingly competing with AI. Sought you out before the search? Authority layer. You've already won before the competition started. I've watched this play out repeatedly. The consultants who struggle, their business feels like constant hustle. The ones who thrive, completely different experience. The difference isn't competence. Often the struggling consultant is just as skilled, maybe even more skilled. The difference is visibility, recognition, and authority. Research backs this up. Forrester found 92% of B2B buyers start evaluation with at least one vendor already in mind. 41% have a single preferred vendor before formal evaluation begins. And get this, 90% of deals are won by vendors from the buyer's initial consideration set. The experts thriving right now, they're not worried about McKinsey's cuts or AI competition. All have one thing in common. They've built tangible authority, something that exists outside of any single client engagement, something that positions them as the expert before the first conversation. When you have tangible authority, when you've written the book on your topic, when your reputation precedes you, the trust is already there. The client isn't evaluating whether you're credible, they're figuring out how to work with you. The power dynamic flips instantly. Edelman LinkedIn research found 60% of B2B decision makers will pay a premium to work with someone who has established thought leadership. 73% said thought leadership is more trustworthy than traditional marketing for judging capabilities. This is the exact approach we use with clients. We help them build an asset, a body of work that does the selling before they walk into the room, positions them in the authority layer instead of the processing layer. Once that asset exists, everything changes. Conversations are different, clients are better, fees are higher, the hustle disappears. Because you're no longer competing on what you can do, you're competing on who you are. And that's something AI can't replicate. The question becomes, how do you build that authority without spending the next year trying to become a writer? Great question. That's why I pulled together this video out here for you to watch next. It shows exactly how we help experts build that asset, a book, in 90 days, not by teaching you to write, but by extracting what's already in your head and turning it into something that attracts clients and commands those premium fees. You'll see the exact extraction process, how we structure it so the book pre-sells your services, and why we back it with an ROI guarantee. Watch that one next.